So it's a overcast day, pretty drizzly at the moment. Hopefully I don't get stormed out because it's supposed to be coming through pretty hard. But I have work to do, so I gotta get out in my garden. So today I'm gonna talk about carrots. The reason being is because I didn't get any successful carrots this year. The birds came through and ate everything out of my beds as they sprouted. And unfortunately what that did was it left me behind with what I was preserving this year for food. So with that being said, I'm sowing a lot of carrots to make up for that. Now, I grow primarily in tilled-in ground gardens, but I did build raised beds because I have clay soil, and hard clay soil just doesn't cut it for trying to grow root vegetables. There's no way that they can move down as well as they need to. So we put in raised beds, and that way I can grow all of my root veggies in there. Now I use the beds throughout the season, and I plant lots of stuff in there. In fact, I've got chards and leeks and eggplants and things like that going now, along with cucumbers and melons and, you know, just a whole list of stuff. But they're there for the fall for the whole purpose of planting carrots. Now I have a couple different types of carrots here. I saved a bunch of seeds this year from a blend that I did last year of rainbow carrots. So we're gonna plant a lot of those, and then I'm gonna try out some seed tape. It's basically, if you've never seen seed tape, it's toilet paper with seeds in it. So I can make my own. If this is successful, then I know what I'm doing this winter. I'm making my own seed tape. But with that being said, Scarlet Nantes carrots, rainbow carrots, and then I have some packs I got for like 10 cents last year, some Scarlet Nantes. We're gonna get those planted. Now, there's two tools that I bring with me before I even begin planting. And those two tools are very simple. I have this, which is just basically like a hand tiller. You put it in the ground and spin it. I'll show how you use it. But I use that with my raised beds because A, my tiller died this year, so I've got to buy a new one soon. And B, the tiller that I do use is an attachment on a weed eater, and I don't want to just like kill that soil in my beds. So I'm just going to hand till. But that's tool number one. And tool number two, you won't believe this one. A 1-inch plank of wood. Any size, any style. This one is almost as tall as me, you know, just chest high. But any type of work, depending on the size of your beds, you could even get the really long boards. But I keep this on hand for the purpose of planting my carrots. Now in the past I've been one of those that just sprinkles seeds everywhere and then just lets them grow. But this year I want to maintain a little bit better. I want to work a little harder and a lot smarter. And so I'm using this again, which was successful in the spring for me until the birds came through. So we're gonna head down to the garden. We're gonna have a little talk about what I'm doing to my soil, and we're gonna show you how to plant some carrots in a very easy way. All right, this is the size of my bed, and this is the bed I'm planting carrots in. I think it's a 4x8 or 4x6 or 3x6, something like that. I didn't build it, my husband did, and I've never really measured, but it's pretty good size, pretty decent size. So what I'm going to come through and do first is get all these extra weeds out because I've been cleaning my beds. I want to make sure they're nice and clean before I plant. And then we're going to go ahead and add some compost. Anytime that I go to plant in the fall, I know that everything that I planted in the spring and summer has taken all that nutrients out. So it's important to add that back in. So I've just got some bag compost, and we're going to put that in, and we're going to go ahead and till that up. And I'll show you how that's done as well. Okay, so before I put my compost down, I like to loosen my soil. And so I just take my little tool here. Let me get this big guy out your way. Okay, so I like to loosen my soil prior. And this tool is very nice because you just stick it in and turn it. And the reason why I like to loosen it is because I can find any of those root systems that are still in my beds, along with anything else, like anthills or big barky chunks, or maybe something I left behind. Right here's some sticks, but I just like to loosen it all down, and that'll take a minute to get done. And then I add my compost on top and give it another turn. I can tell you my number one rule when you have raised beds: don't ever stand in them. The whole purpose of having raised beds is for loose soil, and if you stand in them, all you're doing is ruining that. And I'm not going to my trellis because I'm planting peas. Okay, so like I said, the whole purpose of doing this is to aerate your soil because you're growing root vegetables in it. And secondly, it mixes the compost in. It gets into all those little divots that you've created. And no, that whole side I'm doing nothing with against my trellis because I'm going to plant peas and it should be fine. But I got to take a break because we're getting rained on, so I'll be back. All right, so I've already laid the compost in, and I went ahead and gave it a really good turn with the hand tiller. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to rake this down as flat as possible. Unfortunately, I'm that type of person that throws things everywhere and never puts things back, so I can't find my hard rakes. So I'm just going to use a plastic leaf rake. But we're going to get this all spread, and then I'll show you how I do my carrots. Okay, so that's possibly as flat as I'm going to get it with just a leaf rake. Now, my suggestion is whenever you are doing anything for your fall gardens, go ahead before you plant and prepare for your structures. Meaning if you're doing hoops or if you are doing, just cold framing, whatever you're doing, go ahead and prepare for those structures just in case. So I'm going to stick a couple posts in. That way I can cover these if they hit a frost, which I doubt they will, but there's always that chance. So I'm going to go ahead and put some posts in. Okay, so I just used tomato stakes because I don't have as many tomatoes going right now. And what I actually end up doing is I will lay my fabric down this way across it if I need to protect it. And it works the same way as a hoop house or a cold frame. So let's get to planting the carrots now. I am leaving designated space for my peas. So I'm going to go ahead and mark my space with this stick. It's another tomato stake. But I'm going to put that down and know not to plant across that. That's going to be for the peas only. But what I'm going to do now is bring my board in. And I'm going to go about a half an inch to an inch away. And I'm just going to press it down into my soil. Okay, I'm not sure how well, yeah, you can see that. That's actually going to create what's called a furrow, which is where I plant my carrot seeds. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go through and do probably 5 rows based on what my spacing says. And then we're going to spread the seeds in. But I'm just going to pause you guys until that's all done so you can see that process as I spread. So we're going to go ahead 5 more rows over and get this all prepared. Okay. Magical seed tape. Just splitting it in half. And I'm going to lay that across, and then we're going to spread the seeds. And as I put my seed tape in, I'm actually pressing it into the soil so that it doesn't blow away with the wind. And then I have to kind of remove some of these weeds that are leaning over because I don't want that. Okay, so I laid the tape down. I don't normally use seed tapes, but it's something I had in my seed collection. So we're just going to give it a try. Before I do the rest of this, though, I'm going to go ahead and cover it because it's going to take a lot more to cover. And I'm basically just going to come through with my hands and just make sure this is all nice and loose and broken over the top and cover all this seed tape up as best as I can. Okay, so now that the seed tape's covered, I know where the rest of my rows are, and I'm just going to come through with my seeds and sprinkle. I'm going to start with the seeds that I saved myself, and that's the rainbow mix. And so I'm just getting a big handful of seed, and we're going to walk down and we're going to sprinkle. And I'm actually going to fill in the closest to the trellis, so I know that those are the rainbow ones. And we're hoping to do at least 3 lines of those, and that way I can get colored carrots and orange carrots. Now, I don't space out my seeds at this point. It's really hard to do that sometimes. So I just give them a good sprinkle and we'll thin them out later. Okay, and if you didn't notice, I didn't go all the way down on this far end over here. The reason being is because every time I plant anything in my garden that needs to have a full year of growth before it produces seeds, I save a spot for it. So I'm going to sprinkle rainbow carrots over there as well, and that way I know that entire corner will be just for seed saving. So we're going to do 2 rows, one of just the scarlet mantis and then one with the rainbow carrots, and next year I'll have those all for my seed. All right, and then like I said, just the cheap 10-cent packets I got on clearance last year. I'm going to sprinkle those down in these other 2 rows, and then we will get this all covered. All right, let's just add this real quick so that you guys understand. The reason why I do my rows as far apart as they are now is because it's really hard to sprinkle those seeds directly into the furrows. So what happens is I get a couple that end up outside of the lines, which is fine. When I go to thin, if I have space for them where they're sprouting, I'll just leave them, and then I have a couple carrots growing a little close, but they'll still produce for me. Okay, all the seeds are laid in, and because I cannot find the correct rake that I need, which would be a metal rake or a metal hoe, I'm going to use my trusty diamond hoe, and I'm just gonna push the dirt over. And that way I can get all these seeds covered up real nicely. Just make sure you're being very gentle with your soil, because what's going to happen is if you push too hard, you're actually going to move those seeds. And the whole point is that you built the furrows for the seeds to stay in. So just make sure that you gently push the dirt around. I do not use markers because I write everything down on a piece of paper in my home. So from this point on, I'm just going to leave this. We're going to get another rain, and I want my soil to get nice and moist. And then after it's nice and moist, I can come out and stamp this down a little bit. What I mean by that is you can use the end of your hoe, you can use the end of your rake, and I'm just going to show you a little bit with a board so you can see what I mean, but you're just going to gently pat this down. So I'll just use the end of this. I can't really see my rows too well, but I know exactly where they are, and all I'm going to do is come through and just gently pack that down just lightly to make sure those seeds are in where they need to be. Now after this gets a really nice water, I'm going to come through and I'm going to get that all done. A lot of people have given me some great suggestions since I lost my carrots in the spring, so let's talk about that real quick. Okay, even though it's an overcast day, like I always say in all my videos, it is warm. It's the south, it's the heat, it's the humidity. So I'm going to wrap this up pretty quick so I can get inside. I got other things I got to get done in the house. What I was saying before though, before I came over here, just come stand with my beautiful gourds over here, my favorite spot. I was given a lot of great tips on how to save my carrots this year, so I'm going to go with the board method. Now, I've been doing a lot of research on that since I was told about it, and there are lots of people who do it differently. I don't know if necessarily I want to throw a big board down. Sorry, I'm itchy from ants. So I may just try putting down some cloth. But the whole point of doing all of that is to protect your seedlings. You're going to throw something on top. Cardboard, a piece of plywood, some planks of wood, piece of cloth, something that's going to protect those seedlings and give them about their 10 to 12 day germination rate. When you remove that, you should see little sprouts everywhere. And when that happens, then you can remove the board. Now my problem is I can get them to sprout, no problem. I just can't keep the birds off. So I'm going to have to do netting again. I'm not going to use the same bird netting that I used before. The reason being, A, it's very detrimental to the environment. It's very hard plastic coated, it rips very easily, and I can't reuse it, so it's just going to get thrown away. And on top of that, I found a mouse snagged in it. And I didn't like that. And it was in with a bed full of snakes, which meant, I don't know what they were doing, but they were luring people in or luring mice in. So I didn't like that effect at all. So instead I'm going to use a thicker mesh that's a very heavy duty garden fencing. And I use that stuff on my chicken yard. You can't see it from here. You can kind of see some of the vines growing across it. But if I can grow vines on that stuff and it doesn't fall down, then I'm going to use it to protect my carrots. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to simply let these get really, really wet. I'm going to put something over the top, and when they sprout, I'm going to completely net it to keep those birds out. And hopefully I get a lot of carrots. I hope this helped you out with you planting your fall gardens. I do want to make sure that you understand the 3 big rules to doing your garden. 1, you got to get out and you got to do it. B, don't waste your time because you're going to run out of time. And C, amend your soils because everything's been taken out already. So just give them a little more love. That way your plants grow bigger, better, stronger, healthier, and all the stuff we expect. So thank you guys for stopping by. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, send me a comment below and I'll answer when I can, and hit that like button to let me know that you're enjoying what you're seeing. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next one.